Hello everyone, and it seems the great companion nerf is at least being reduced a little bit to a tiny companion nerf in tomorrow's patch. Well, this will go up when it's patching, actually. So today's patch, I guess we should call it, but I've decided to record this a day earlier because we did get a yellow post, ooh, a rare yellow post from Mr. Michael Backus, who is the lead designer for Star Wars The Old Republic. Who would have thought it? SWTOR had a lead designer. There you go. Who could write in sentences and everything. Look at that. Brilliant stuff. That's enough insults. Let's talk about some of the things that he said. He talks about combat balance, okay? The factors that contribute to combat balance, of course. Whether it's too easy or too hard. It says ability rotations, number of enemies and their abilities, player playstyle, player skill level, player class choice, companion role, and how well your computer can run the game. Of course, how well the server can run the game as well is another factor that they should really take into consideration. So he says that some players say this is a snap, and some players say it's the hardest thing I've played in my entire life. So it is difficult to tell who's right, but I mean there is one way to tell who's right. If you're dying on trash mobs with abilities that are easily countered, i.e. interruptible, then should you really be playing this game, or should you really be playing heroic? And that's not an elitist saying that. It's like, if you do not want to die, interrupt that ability. That's the simple fact, really. Relying on your companion to get you out of a bind, which was okay before, but since they nerfed it down, I mean, I instinctively interrupt things. Okay, I just see something that looks nasty and I think, I'm gonna interrupt that. I see a flamethrower being channeled, I'm gonna interrupt that. It's stacking a debuff on me, I don't want that debuff. Okay, not taking damage is the best way to live. Okay, doing high amounts of damage is a good way to live, of course, but not taking damage tends to be a good way. So the gameplay that they talked about, now they did release the goals for the solo content types. Okay, that was Eric Musco's post, which we covered in the previous video, which again stated that leveling was easy, Heroic 2s were meant to be medium, and Star Fortress is meant to be hard. That is the solo, that is how the solo, so there is a progression path there, and I think it's a good thing that the game has a progression path for solo mode. That is actually quite, it's not a bad idea, really, to have it, because solo mode in the past has just been insultingly easy. I mean, we don't want another Revan. Do we really want another solo Revan? Really, where you just go AFK, come back 5 minutes later, collect your free companion main hand and your free elite comms? No, we don't want that. You know, so I quite like Star Fortress in that sense that it is a little bit challenging. And you know, there's nothing wrong with having, you know, not having access to all the content as a solo player. Bear in mind, people say, oh, I pay my subscription, I'm entitled to access to all the content. Well, yeah, you have access to it. It entitles you to access. Whether you're able to do it or not is up to you. You know, you do always have the option, bear in mind, of grouping with other people. You know, you always have that option open to you. So they're not denying you content. They are gating it behind gear grind or behind companion influence grind. However, again, it's an MMO. You know, in MMOs they have to have retention mechanics. We did discuss this in an earlier video about retention mechanics and why it needs retention mechanics. So it is a retention mechanic, these Heroic 2s. Bear in mind that some Heroic 2s that you can do and some that you can't do. I'm okay with that, actually. Some that are harder than others. Because what you do is you get comfortable with the ones you can do, and then you gear up your companion. Okay, you still gear up companions in 4.0. Okay, we get reputation. Not reputation, influence, should we say. Influence is gearing your companion, okay? Getting a companion 2 or 3 influence ranks and then coming back again and trying the same heroic. It's not a bad idea, as well as yourself. You can also gear yourself up a little bit as well. Bear in mind, level sync kind of puts a little bit of a dampener on that. There's also things like augments that you can get. Again, we don't want to augment mastery or power because they get capped when we're level synced. Your power and mastery just get capped. That's why crit and alacrity are the best things to augment. They're the best stats, because when we're doing level synced content, your crit rating and your alacrity rating don't get capped. Okay, they're still the same. I still have 40% crit at level 34. At the same, doing the same content level 34, level 65 synced down to 34, and I have the same at level 65 doing level 65 content. So they don't get shrunk down. You still have the same crit, still have the same alacrity, still have the same crit multiplier, of course, which comes from crit. So that's why those stats are the most powerful stats. When we talk about stats in the game, we talk about those, the tertiary stats being the most powerful. And of course, what you get from the commendation gear is more powerful tertiary stats. Okay, 220 gear, that's the difference between 220 and 216 basically is the bigger tertiary stat. Of course, you get the bigger secondary stat from the raid gear, but however, you do need the power when you start stepping up into hard mode operations, which are not bolstered or level synced in any way. You're just your gear limit is determined by what gear you're wearing, basically. So as we step up to them, it becomes quite apparent that we need to gear up, and we need the extra power, because power is damage, you know, it's consistent. So that's why we tend to favor power, whereas level synced content, our power is going to get capped. Okay, level 24, your power is going to be capped at whatever it's going to be capped at, or level 34, it's just going to be capped. The cap is going to be higher, obviously, at 34, but you know, it's never going to increase, no matter how many augments you put in, no matter how good a gear you have, it's never ever going to go over that cap. Therefore, it's not a benefit to us, so that's why we tend not to augment it. So they've said going forward, what they're going to do, so what they said was their goal actually was for skilled players, or you know, engage in Heroic 2 skilled players would solo them, and the more casual players would group up for them. That was their intention. Okay, the mistake that they made was that everybody was able to solo them regardless of skill. Okay, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? You could argue yes, because essentially it is the dailies of 4.0. You know, there was no new daily areas added, so in terms of casual content, you know, and this of course is part of the Alliance end game as well. It was the best method of gearing our companions, because you got the boxes which had companion gifts in them, which of course again was the best way to gain influence with our companion. They've said going forward they are going to be buffing companions. Companion healing is getting increased by roughly 48% is what they've said. Companion damage is getting increased as well, and companion base stats are also being increased, both by 15%. Influence level, it's not a fixed amount. This is going to be influence level is going to determine it. That's again that they want. They want you to grind influence, okay? Because again, it's part of the retention mechanic. So they want to make influence a bigger factor. Because if you're immortal with 13 influence, then no one's ever going to grind influence. You're not going to do the content. You're just going to outgrow it and go, yeah, what's the point? Okay. So in that regard, it does make sense. Because again, they want you to do that. They want you on the treadmill. All MMOs have it. Whether it's solo, PvE, PvP. Okay. Whether you pick any of those three, you're going to be on a treadmill. Okay. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. It's a subscription-based game. Ultimately, it is free to play, but you know, Knights of the Fallen Empire is subscription-based. I don't know what happens if you unsubscribe. Maybe you lose access to Fallen Empire, but again, I don't know. I've never unsubscribed from Fallen Empire. Sub does run out in December, but I think we'll be renewing it because it's turned out okay, actually, 4.0. Star Fortress is the interesting thing. The different topic from companion balance is what they said. What they did was, the goal for Star Fortress was that was going to be the sort of the underlurker, if you will, for solo players. Okay, the brick wall that you're gonna hit, and you're gonna have to gear up. Okay, so it was designed to be the toughest challenge for solo players, and I quite like that. Again, I think it's a good idea. It was there. What he says was it was there for something to aspire to achieve is the challenge. Okay, we feel it is a challenge that players should aspire to achieve. and not something players should easily do without gearing up their character and increasing their companion's influence level. Fine, there's a goal for you there, okay? There is a goal to be set. I mean, it's not like you're not just going to... The goal for the design was you aren't just going to ding 65 and then just walk into Star Fortress and solo it. There is a solo mode version of Star Fortress that you can do. However, if you want to liberate the planets, then you have to do the Heroic 2 version. However, 2 level 65s can walk in relatively freshly geared and have no problem with it. So there's always that option there. But if you want to be a solo player, you're choosing the harder of the 2 difficulties, okay? That is... so that is going to be... they are also going to change what it's called. They're going to change it from Heroic. I think it's just call it Hard Mode. Personally, just call it Hard Mode Star Fortress. Or just leave it as Star Fortress. Really, because I like the idea that you have to gear up for that. Because again, it gives you something to do with those heroic quests. You then, because bear in mind, you're rewarded with data crystals. You get glowing data crystals. I think it should be balanced around you being 216, not 220, because most of the 220 stuff, the radiant data crystals you get from group content. Although you do get some radiant data crystals from doing solo content, but the majority of them are going to be glowing. It does drop a 208 piece, so you could argue maybe they should buff the reward. Maybe make it drop a 216 Mark II piece. That's, you know, not a set bonus piece. I don't agree with that, but a Mark II piece, like one of the PCs you get as personal loot in operations. I think that'd be okay. Okay, 'cause it'd be an upgrade for a lot of people, and it'd be a good incentive for solo players to do it because you're getting a nice gear reward at the end of the day. Maybe a 216 main hand. Maybe. I'm gonna throw that out there. Maybe that's how you get your 216 main hand, or even a 208 main hand. Because bear in mind, 208 main hands not available from vendors. 216 main hands not available from vendors. Although you can get a 208 main hand. So I would suggest make the 216 Mark II main hand. Not as good as the one that drops from operations though. Just make it a Mark II 216 main hand that you get for doing a heroic Star Fortress, okay? You do the first one, and make it part of the first quest that you get as a reward. Then it's an incentive to do it, okay? The gear balance would be around you being mostly 216 geared. I think that's what it should be balanced around. That should be the recommended item level, I think. You know, kind of, well, story mode ops don't really have a recommended item level. They do drop set bonus 216, but you shouldn't need to get the set bonus to do solo content. I think that defeats the whole purpose of it. But the way I'd have it say 216 commendation gear, 216 Mark I gear, should be fine. 208, mostly 208 with some 216s. Okay, so you have to do a little bit of grind. You have to do a couple of heroics, a couple of dailies as well. Maybe daily areas like Ziost or Yavin. There's plenty of daily areas in the game with heroics that you can solo as well at the end. You've got your black hole dailies as well. So there's plenty of content available for people. And people who are not geared enough to enter Star Fortress, there's no real excuse for it. You shouldn't be going in 190 gear anyway. Okay, you shouldn't be going in. That was the solo players' kind of best kind of gear that they could get, was the 190 gear from Ziost. So the best gear you can get now, you can get realistically 216 is realistic because you do get a radiant, or not a radiant, a glowing data crystal, which is what the elite comms were. Whenever you do a heroic quest. Okay, so heroic medium difficulty it's fairly easy to do for most players. Do I find Star Fortress difficult? I did find it difficult because of the input lag. The input lag was insane. I was pressing keys, and the fact that Senya just decided she didn't like me at one point and just refused to heal me. You know, it's good. That's useful. I did try it with my Vanguard, who is kind of raid geared, so is way over geared for that content. I did notice I did have 100k health though. You know, I've got like nearly 80k health now on my Vanguard, but 100k health, you know, they gave me. So I'm like, yeah, jeez. You know, you get the buffs from your companion, not companions, your alliance main kind of well, the science, the force, and the military underworld that you get. So you can activate. There is buffs that you can activate there if you want. But then, you know, Star Fortress, I think it's a pain in the arse, if I'm honest with you. I mean, the challenge is not challenging to someone who raids. Okay, it's not challenging. Maybe it's not content designed for me, really, but I mean, I find it's a bit of a pain in the arse. Too many trash mobs and it lasts far too long. It's like they seem to just have big health pools just for the sake of having big health pools. And it's just not fun to just grind and whittle them down. You know, I just don't find that very fun. But my opinion, I like that you have to go in and gear up, because it's something for your alts to do, it's something for my alts to do, something for them to shoot for that we're gonna do as a non-raiding alt. You know, you're gonna have to go in and gear up slightly to do so. But I think it would be better if they buffed the reward rather than get like I got a 208 belt, and I got the mount as well. I got a mount from it. Got the Zakul Walker mount from it, so you know, it's not too bad. Maybe increase the rewards, maybe put more cosmetic rewards in, maybe get a whole armor set. Maybe that would be the thing to do. Now you only get pieces of armor sets, the old tier pieces. Maybe guarantee you a full armor set. Maybe whatever class you're playing as well, something like that. Because I got a helmet, which is legacy bound, so it's nice, but not really. I'm not really gonna wear that helmet. I'm still wearing my Karaga helmet. Still think it should be a requirement for everyone who does Karaga's Palace HM. If you win the helmet, you gotta wear it. Okay, you gotta wear it. It's the rules. These are rules. Okay, it's like when you're a guardian, you gotta use the little lightsaber. It's true. You have to use the little lightsaber, the little dinky lightsaber. I know it's a cash shop purchase, but go and purchase it. Not a proper guardian unless you're using the little dinky lightsaber. Anyway, so that's my thoughts on Star Fortress. I don't really do it that often. That was only the third Star Fortress I've ever done. Really, I've done one on my Vanguard. If I do it again on my Scoundrel, I would deliberately avoided doing it on the Scoundrel because that's the only other class I have the Alliance unlocked on. So I deliberately avoided it because people would just say, "Oh, you're a Scoundrel, you're a healer class, you could just heal yourself, and you could just disappear if it all goes tits up." Which, you know, is true. You know, it's true. That's why I did it on the Vanguard, because you can't just stealth out when it all goes wrong. So that's why, again, I was going to try it with a Marauder, but I need to finish the story on the Marauder, really. I was going to go, oh, I've got a Marauder. Oh, wait, I'm at chapter 7. Nah, I don't think so. I don't want to go through chapter 7. It's a terrible, terrible chapter. So it's like, nah. Most of my alts that hit 65, chapter 7 is where they're at, and it's like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, personally. But yeah, I don't think that it's a bad thing to ask people to do a bit of grinding. I think it's a decent retention mechanic. I like the fact it gets you out into the world again. It gets you out and gets you doing things. I like some of the things like Kaizen's quest was really good. Doing the world bosses. Dr. Loken's was a bit of a pain in the arse with all the biochem mats that you needed. But yeah, hopefully there's more companions get added in the game. I want Kefis. We need Kefis. Kefis, Raider exclusive companion should be. Basically, you gotta kill Kefis a bunch of times in TFB and EC. Maybe kill Kefis hard mode. There you go, there's a challenge. And solo players be like, oh, but we want Kefis. But bear in mind, Kefis has always been a raid-based character. Okay, we first saw him in EC, we see him again in TFB, and we see him again as a clone in Dread Fortress. So, you know, Kefis has always been. He's always been a raid-based character, so, you know, you should be able to do raid stuff to get Kefis. But anyway, that is all for this video, so thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.